Liam sat alone in the dim cockpit of his small spacecraft, the Wayfarer. The soft hum of the ship's engine filled the cabin as he stared out into the vast emptiness of space. He was used to long journeys, traveling between distant colonies to repair damaged satellites and chip systems. It was quiet, lonely work, but it paid well. Just as he was about to take a sip of his recycled water, a red light flashed on his console. His heart skipped a beat. An emergency distress signal. Unknown vessel. Weak transmission. Possible life signs detected. The computer's monotone voice reported. Liam leaned forward, adjusting the controls to get a better reading. The signal was faint, barely holding on. He frowned. Most distress calls came from pirates setting traps or abandoned wrecks, long past saving. But something about this one felt different. Against his better judgment, he set a course toward the source of the signal. 20 minutes later, the Wayfarer arrived near a floating, damaged ship. It was unlike anything Liam had ever seen. Sleek, organic-looking, and pulsing with a faint blue glow, the vessel seemed half alive. Large gashes in its hull exposed dark, twisted cables, and flickering lights indicated failing power. Liam hesitated. If this was an alien vessel, there was no telling what he might find inside. But the weak distress signal was still active. Someone was in there, and they needed help. Grabbing his toolkit and emergency gear, he activated his suit's helmet and engaged the docking sequence. As the ship's airlock connected, he took a deep breath and stepped inside. The interior of the ship was eerily quiet. The walls were smooth and curved, as if they had been grown rather than built. Dim blue lights pulsed along the corridors, casting strange shadows. Liam's boots echoed softly as he walked deeper into the ship, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Then he heard it, a faint, trembling sound. A voice. He turned a corner and froze. A figure was curled up in the corner of the corridor, barely breathing. It was a girl, an alien girl. She had violet skin, delicate features, and long, flowing silver hair that shimmered under the dim lights. Her eyes, large and glassy, flickered open as she struggled to move. She clutched her abdomen, her body shaking as if in pain. Liam took a cautious step forward. "Hey, can you hear me?" The girl's gaze met his, and for a moment, fear flashed in her eyes. She tried to push herself away but was too weak. Her lips parted, and she whispered something in a language he didn't understand. Liam slowly raised his hands to show he wasn't a threat. "I'm here to help. You sent a distress signal, right?" Her eyes flickered with recognition, and after a moment, she nodded weakly. She struggled to speak, her voice barely audible. "Ate help. Me." Liam kneeled beside her, quickly checking for injuries. Her skin was warm, too warm. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse erratic. She was in bad shape. "I need to get you to my ship," Liam said, carefully sliding his arm under her. She tensed at first, but then went limp, too weak to resist. As he lifted her, she whispered something else, her voice full of desperation. "Inside. You are inside me now." Liam frowned, confused, but there was no time to ask what she meant. He carried her back through the corridor, moving as fast as he could. The ship shuddered slightly, and a warning alarm echoed through the halls. Power failure. The vessel wasn't going to last much longer. As soon as he reached the Wayfarer, he placed her on the medical cot and activated the ship's scanners. The screen flickered to life, displaying strange, unreadable data. The girl's biology was completely different from anything the system had encountered before. "Come on, stay with me," Liam muttered, watching as her breathing grew weaker. Then suddenly, he felt it. A strange warmth spread through his chest, a tingling sensation in his mind. It wasn't pain, but it wasn't normal either. He looked down at the girl, and her glowing eyes locked onto his. Something was happening. Something he couldn't understand. And he had no idea what it meant. Liam sat beside the alien girl, watching as the ship's medical scanner tried to process her condition. The screen flickered with unreadable symbols, struggling to make sense of her biology. Her breathing was shallow, her body trembling as if fighting some invisible force. He ran a hand through his hair, feeling helpless. "Come on, don't die on me," he muttered. The girl's glowing violet eyes fluttered open slightly. She looked at him, her gaze unfocused, and whispered something in her strange language. Then she reached out weakly, her slender fingers brushing against his hand. The moment they touched, a strange sensation shot through Liam's body. His mind filled with images, memories that weren't his. He saw a massive golden city floating above a blue ocean, alien symbols glowing in the sky. He felt the warmth of twin suns on his skin, heard the hum of strange technology, the laughter of voices that did not belong to him. Then the memories darkened. Explosions, fire, a fleet of black, jagged ships descending from the sky. Pain, fear, desperation. Liam gasped, pulling his hand away. His heart pounded in his chest. What just happened? The alien girl's eyes widened slightly, as if she realized something. She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "You are inside me now." Liam frowned. "What does that mean?" She struggled to sit up, her breathing still weak. "Connection," she whispered. "I linked to you." Liam stared at her. "Linked? You mean that wasn't just a vision? I actually saw your memories." She gave a small, weak nod. "My people. Visari. When we are weak, we bond to survive." Liam exhaled, trying to process what she was saying. He had heard of strange alien biology before, but nothing like this. Was she saying they were mentally connected now? That would explain why he had seen her memories, and why he still felt a strange warmth in his chest. She shivered, hugging herself. "Too weak. I will not last." Liam clenched his fists. He wasn't a doctor. He didn't know anything about Visari biology. But if what she said was true, this bond might be the only thing keeping her alive. He looked at the scanner again. Still no useful data. He had one option: keep her stable and figure out what was happening later. "All right," he said, standing up. "I'll do whatever I can to help you." The girl's lips parted slightly, as if surprised. Then, after a long pause, she gave the faintest nod. Liam moved quickly. He grabbed a thermal blanket and wrapped it around her trembling body. Then he activated the ship's nutrient synthesizer and programmed it to create a mild energy supplement. He had no idea if it would be safe for her, but he had to try something. She sipped the liquid carefully, her hands shaking. After a few moments, some color returned to her violet skin. Liam sat down across from her. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated before answering. "Henry." "Henry," he repeated. "I'm Liam." Her eyes studied him, as if memorizing his name. Then she spoke softly. "Liam, thank you." He waved it off. "Don't thank me yet. We still have a problem." She frowned. "Problem?" Liam turned to his console and pointed at the radar screen. A red warning light was flashing. "This ship of yours, it's not safe here. I scanned the area. We're not alone." Henry's breath hitched. "They followed me." Liam looked at her, his jaw tightening. "Who?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "The ones who destroyed my people." Liam felt a cold chill run down his spine. The memories he had seen, the black warships, the explosions, the screams, they weren't just random images. They were real. And now, whatever had attacked her home was coming for her again. He turned back to the controls. "We need to leave. Now." Henry tried to push herself up, but her body was still weak. She winced, shaking her head. "No, they will track our energy signature." Liam's hands hovered over the console. "Then what do we do?" Henry hesitated, then closed her eyes. A strange pulse ran through Liam's mind. For a moment, he saw something, a path through a nearby asteroid field. hidden from scanners. He gasped, snapping back to reality. And reopened her eyes slowly. You see. Liam took a deep breath. That was you showing me the way. She nodded. Bond makes us one. You can see what I see. Liam exhaled. This was insane. He had only known her for an hour, and now they were mentally connected. But there was no time to question it. He grabbed the controls. All right, Henry. Let's see if this bond of ours can get us out of here. As the Wayfarer powered up and turned toward the asteroid field, the warning lights flashed brighter. The enemy was coming. Liam's fingers tightened around the controls as the Wayfarer accelerated toward the asteroid field. The ship's engines hummed loudly, pushing the vessel to its limits. Behind them, red warning signals flashed on the screen. An unknown enemy ship was closing in fast. Henry sat beside him, still weak but more alert than before. Her violet skin looked slightly better after drinking the energy supplement, but she wasn't fully recovered. Her silver hair fell over her shoulders as she stared at the radar, her hands trembling slightly. They will not stop, she said softly. Liam glanced at her. Who are they? Henry hesitated. They call themselves the Kryn. They are war hunters, destroyers. They attacked my home, my people. I was the last to escape. Liam gritted his teeth. The images he had seen in his mind, flashes of burning cities and screaming voices, now made sense. The Kryn had wiped out her species, and now they were here to finish the job. We're not going to let them catch us, he said firmly. Henry turned to him. They are faster. Liam smirked. Maybe. But I know how to fly. The Wayfarer shot into the asteroid field, weaving between massive floating rocks. Some were as small as pebbles, others as big as mountains. The ship's hull vibrated as smaller debris bounced off its shields. Liam moved quickly, adjusting the thrusters to slip through narrow gaps. The Kryn ship, sleek and black, followed close behind, trying to match his maneuvers. They are gaining, Henry warned. Liam cursed under his breath. The enemy ship was more advanced, built for war. The Wayfarer was just a small repair vessel. It wasn't made for high-speed chases or combat. Then, suddenly, he felt something. A pulse of energy ran through his mind, like a whisper in the back of his thoughts. His vision blurred for a second. And then, he saw a path. A way through the asteroids, a perfect route that no ordinary pilot could see. He gasped, snapping back to reality. His hands moved before he could think, shifting the controls, following the invisible path. The ship twisted and turned in impossible ways, avoiding collisions by mere inches. Henry's eyes widened. You see it? Liam nodded. That was you, wasn't it? She swallowed. The bond. It lets you sense what I sense. Liam didn't have time to question it. He trusted his instincts, their instincts, and kept flying. The Kryn ship fired. Bright blue plasma shots streaked past, exploding against nearby asteroids. The shockwaves shook the Wayfarer, throwing Liam and Henry forward. They're trying to box us in, Liam growled. Henry placed a hand on her forehead, eyes squeezing shut. There is a way. Another pulse ran through Liam's mind. This time, he saw something even stranger, a hidden cavern inside a massive asteroid, a perfect place to disappear. Liam didn't question it. He angled the ship downward, heading straight for the massive rock. The Kryn ship followed, still firing. Hold on, Liam shouted. The asteroid loomed ahead, its surface covered in cracks and jagged cliffs. At the last second, Liam spun the ship sideways and dived into a narrow opening. The ship scraped against the rocky walls, sparks flying, but they made it inside. Darkness swallowed them as they shot through a twisting tunnel, dodging sharp turns and debris. The Kryn tried to follow, but their ship was too big. A massive rock collapsed behind them, sealing the tunnel shut. Silence filled the cabin. Henry exhaled in relief. They lost us. Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He leaned back, his hand shaking slightly from the intensity of the chase. That was close. The ship floated in the cavern, surrounded by glowing blue crystals. Anri looked at Liam, her expression unreadable. "You followed my vision," she said quietly. Liam nodded. "Yeah. I don't know how, but I felt what you did. It's like my brain knew exactly where to go." Anri hesitated, then spoke in a serious tone. "The bond is growing stronger." Liam frowned. "What happens if it keeps growing?" She didn't answer right away. Her fingers tightened around the edges of her blanket, and she looked down. "If the bond completes, we will no longer be separate." Liam's stomach twisted. "You mean, we'll merge?" Anri nodded slowly. "Visari do this, but only with our own kind. It is rare. It is permanent." Liam ran a hand down his face. This was a lot to take in. An hour ago, he had been a simple repair technician. Now he was bonded to an alien girl, on the run from a deadly enemy, and possibly becoming something else. Anri looked at him, her expression uncertain. "Do you regret saving me?" Liam sighed, then shook his head. "No, I don't regret it." She blinked, surprised by his answer. Liam leaned forward. "But we need to figure out what this bond means. And fast. Because something tells me the Kryn aren't done hunting us yet." Anri nodded. "Yes. And next time, they will come with more." Liam clenched his fists. They had escaped for now, but the Kryn wouldn't stop until they found them. And if the bond between him and Anri kept growing, he wasn't sure what he would become. Liam sat in the Wayfarer's cockpit, staring at the radar. The ship was safe for now, hidden inside the massive asteroid cavern. The Kryn ship hadn't found another way in. At least not yet. But he knew they wouldn't give up. Behind him, Anri sat on the medical cot, still wrapped in the thermal blanket. Her violet skin had regained some color, but she was still weak. Her silver hair shimmered faintly in the dim light as she watched Liam with a serious expression. "The bond. It is changing you," she said softly. Liam turned to her. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. "I feel your thoughts. They are clearer now. Before, it was only small feelings. Now, it is more." Liam exhaled. He couldn't deny it. He could feel Anri's presence in his mind, like a shadow just behind his thoughts. It wasn't words, exactly, but emotions, instincts, even flashes of images that weren't his own. And it was growing stronger. He rubbed his temples. "Is there a way to stop it?" Anri looked down. "No." Silence filled the cabin. Liam clenched his jaw. He wasn't angry at her. It wasn't her fault. But this was his mind, his body. The idea of losing control, of merging with someone else, it scared him. He took a deep breath. "All right. Then tell me, how does this bond work?" Anri met his gaze. "Visari form bonds to survive. When we are near death, we connect to another. It keeps us alive, makes us stronger. But," she hesitated, "it is only meant to happen between Visari, never with an outsider." Liam frowned. "Then why did it work on me?" Anri shook her head. "I do not know." Liam ran a hand through his hair. None of this made sense. He was just a human, nothing special. And yet, somehow, their connection had worked. Somehow, it was growing stronger. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through Liam's head. He groaned, gripping the edge of the console. His vision blurred, and his body felt like it was on fire. Then, images flooded his mind. A massive golden city, Visari homeworld, before the war. Anri standing on a high balcony, the twin suns shining above her. Dark ships filling the sky, explosions ripping through the city streets. Anri running, hiding, escaping. Liam gasped, snapping back to reality. He was sweating, his breathing uneven. He looked at Anri, and she stared back, wide-eyed. "You saw," she whispered. Liam swallowed hard. "That was your memory." She nodded slowly. "The bond is deepening. Soon, there will be no difference between us." Liam clenched his fists. No, he couldn't let that happen. He turned back to the controls, trying to focus. "We need to get out of here before the Kryn find us again." Henry didn't respond. He could feel her emotions now. Doubt, fear, sadness. He looked at her. "What is it?" She hesitated, then spoke in a quiet voice. "Even if we escape, the bond will not stop. It will keep growing." Liam exhaled. He knew she was right. No matter where they went, no matter how far they ran, he was changing. And there was no turning back. Outside the asteroid, the Kryn were still searching. Inside their warship, a tall, armored figure stood in front of a holographic display. His black eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. "Visari life sign detected," he said in a deep, rumbling voice. "She is hiding." A soldier beside him spoke. "Shall we destroy the asteroid?" The leader shook his head. "No, we must capture her. She is the last of her kind." His gaze darkened. "And she has bonded with a human." The soldier hesitated. "A human? That should not be possible." The leader smirked. "And yet, it has happened." He turned to the crew. "Find them. Now." The Kryn ship shifted position, their scanners sweeping the asteroid's surface. It was only a matter of time before they found the entrance. Back in the Wayfarer, Liam's hands moved over the controls. "We can't stay here," he said. "We have to move before they." A warning alarm blared through the cockpit. Liam's stomach dropped. He didn't need the radar to tell them what had happened. The Kryn had found them. Henry's hands clenched around the blanket. "They are coming." Liam's heart pounded. The ship's engine was still cooling down from the last chase. There was no way they could outrun the Kryn again, not in open space. Then, a thought entered his mind. A path. A route through the deeper tunnels of the asteroid, leading to an exit on the other side. Liam blinked. "Did you just show me that?" Henry nodded slowly. "The bond is strong now. You can see what I see." Liam didn't waste time. He fired up the thrusters and turned the ship toward the hidden passage. Outside, the Kryn ships closed in. "Hold on," Liam muttered. "This is going to be rough." As the Wayfarer shot forward into the darkness, the Kryn warships descended, weapons locked onto their target. The chase wasn't over yet. Liam gripped the controls of the Wayfarer tightly as the ship shot forward into the asteroid's dark tunnels. The ship's engines roared, the thrusters burning at full power. Behind them, the Kryn warships were closing in fast. Henry sat beside him, her breathing unsteady. Her violet skin had lost some of its color again, and sweat glistened on her forehead. She was weak, too weak. But Liam could still feel her presence in his mind, like a second heartbeat. "Guide me," he said, his voice steady. Henry nodded and closed her eyes. At once, a vision appeared in Liam's mind. Twisting tunnels, sharp turns, a path only she could see. Liam's hands moved on instinct, following the route. The Wayfarer banked left, then right, dodging jagged rocks. The walls of the tunnel were dangerously close, scraping against the ship's shields. The Kryn fired. Bright blue energy blasts streaked past them, exploding against the rocky walls. Debris rained down, shaking the ship violently. Liam cursed. "We won't last long like this." Henry's voice was weak, but firm. "Faster." Liam pushed the thrusters to maximum. The ship shot forward, a blur in the darkness. The tunnel ahead narrowed, and for a second, Liam thought they wouldn't fit. Then the Wayfarer twisted sideways, sliding through the gap with barely a meter to spare. Behind them, one of the Kryn ships tried to follow, but it was too big. Boom! A massive explosion filled the tunnel as the enemy ship smashed into the rock, breaking apart in a fiery blast. Liam exhaled sharply. One down. But there were more behind them. The tunnel ahead split into two paths. Henry's eyes opened suddenly. Left. Liam didn't hesitate. He turned sharply to the left, just as another blast from the Krinships tore through the right passage. If they had gone that way, they would have been destroyed. His heart pounded. You saw that coming. Henry swallowed hard. Yes. The bond. It is stronger now. Liam didn't respond. He could feel it too, a strange awareness, like her mind was connected to his. He didn't just hear her words. He felt them, like an instinct buried deep inside. But there was no time to think about it. Ahead, the tunnel was ending. Beyond the exit, open space stretched before them. But the Kryn fleet was waiting outside. Henry's hands clenched. They are here. Liam's jaw tightened. If they flew out now, they'd be sitting ducks. He scanned the cavern. There had to be something they could use. A way out. Then suddenly, he saw it. A massive cluster of unstable energy crystals embedded in the asteroid walls. If they could detonate them. Liam glanced at Henry. Can you show me how to hit those crystals? Henry's violet eyes locked onto his. You trust me? Liam smirked. I don't have a choice, do I? She reached out, touching his arm. A pulse of energy shot through his mind. And in that instant, he knew. Liam's hands moved fast, targeting the crystals with precise shots. The Wayfarer's cannons fired. 1, 2, 3 blasts. The crystals exploded. A massive shockwave ripped through the cavern, sending chunks of rock flying in all directions. The entrance to the tunnel collapsed, blocking the Kryn ships outside. The Wayfarer shot through a smaller exit just as the explosion sealed off the cavern behind them. They were free. Silence filled the cockpit as Liam leaned back, breathing hard. Henry sat beside him, her body trembling. She had used the last of her strength. Liam turned to her. You okay? She nodded weakly. We escaped. Liam exhaled. Yeah, but they're not going to stop. Henry's eyes met his. No, they will come again. Liam knew she was right. The Kryn wouldn't give up, and neither would he. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Liam adjusted the ship's course, his hands firm on the controls. The Wayfarer had escaped the Kryn for now, but he knew they wouldn't stop hunting them. Henry sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, her violet skin still pale. Her silver hair stuck to her forehead, damp with sweat. She was weak, too weak. How are you feeling? Liam asked. Henry's voice was soft. The bond kept me alive, but I am still not fully healed. Liam frowned. He could feel it, a strange emptiness in his chest, like something was pulling at his strength. Their bond was deepening, and it was affecting him too. He turned his focus back to the controls. We need a place to hide and recover. Henry closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke. There is one place. Liam looked at her. Where? She hesitated. A dead planet. Xiphos 9. It was once a Viseri outpost. It has been abandoned for years, but there may still be something left. Liam checked the star charts. Xiphos 9 was far, deep in uncharted space, but they had no other choice. All right, he said. We'll go there. Henry nodded weakly, then closed her eyes again. Liam could feel her exhaustion. She needed rest. He set the course and activated the warp drive. The Wayfarer shot into the stars. Xiphos 9, the forgotten world. Hours later, the ship dropped out of warp. Xiphos 9 loomed ahead, a cold, barren world covered in dark clouds and endless ruins. Liam brought the ship lower, scanning for any signs of life. Nothing. It's dead, he muttered. Henry stirred beside him. No, not dead. Just sleeping. Liam frowned but didn't argue. He found a large, empty structure and landed inside. The moment the ship touched the ground, He powered everything down to avoid detection. He stood up. "Let's check it out." Henri tried to move, but her legs were shaky. Liam sighed and held out a hand. "Come on," he said. She hesitated, then placed her hand in his. Her skin was cool against his. As soon as she touched him, Liam felt a pulse of energy, a warmth that spread through his body. Their bond was getting stronger. He swallowed and helped her stand. "Let's go." Inside the ruins, the air was thin and cold as they stepped outside. The ruins stretched far into the distance, massive towers and broken structures covered in dust. The sky was dark, with flashes of lightning in the distance. "This place," Henri whispered. "I remember it." Liam glanced at her. "You've been here before." She nodded. "Long ago, before the war." They moved deeper into the ruins, stepping over fallen debris. Henri led the way, as if drawn by something unseen. Then suddenly, a deep hum filled the air. Liam froze. What was that? Henri's eyes widened. "The core." Liam frowned. "The what?" She took a shaky breath. "The Visari built a core here, a source of energy. If it still works, it could help me heal." Liam narrowed his eyes. "And what if it's dangerous?" Henri looked at him. "Then we run." Liam sighed. "Great." They moved deeper into the ruins. The humming grew louder. Something was still alive here. The Visari core. They entered a massive chamber. At the center stood a glowing crystal, pulsing with blue light. Henri stepped closer, her eyes locked onto it. "It still works." Liam tensed. "Is it safe?" Henri didn't answer. She placed her hand on the crystal. At once, a surge of energy filled the air. Liam took a step back. "Henri." "Then," she gasped. Her body trembled as the energy flowed into her. Her silver hair lifted slightly, glowing under the crystal's light. Liam felt it too. The bond between them burned hot, filling his mind with strange images. Henri's memories. A great war, a desperate escape, a promise never fulfilled. Liam clenched his jaw. He wasn't just seeing her past, he was feeling it. Then, just as suddenly, the energy stopped. Henri collapsed, but Liam caught her before she hit the ground. She looked up at him, her eyes brighter, stronger. I can stand now." Liam let out a breath of relief. "Good, because I think we have a problem." Henri followed his gaze. The crystal was cracking. The ground trembled. Something was waking up. Liam grabbed Henri's arm. "We need to get out of here. Now." The ruins around them shook violently. Dust and debris rained down as a deep mechanical growl echoed through the chamber. Henri's grip on his arm tightened. "Something is here." Liam's heart pounded. They were not alone. And whatever had woken up was coming for them. Liam tightened his grip on Henri's arm as the entire chamber trembled. Something massive was waking up. The Visari core's glow flickered wildly, cracks spurting across its surface. A deep metallic growl echoed through the ruins. Liam turned sharply, his hand moving to his sidearm. "What is that?" Henri's breathing was unsteady. "A guardian." Liam frowned. "A what?" Before she could answer, the ground shook violently, and a huge shape emerged from the shadows. It was a machine, a towering construct of Visari design. Ancient, rusted, but still deadly. Its body was shaped like a warrior, with thick armor plating and glowing blue eyes. Large mechanical arms flexed as it took a heavy step forward, scanning the room. Then, its gaze locked onto them. A deep, rumbling voice echoed through the chamber. "Intruders detected." Liam's stomach dropped. "Oh, great." The guardian's chest lit up with blue energy. Henri grabbed Liam's wrist. "Run. The chase begins." Liam didn't need to be told twice. He turned and sprinted, pulling Henri with him. Behind them, the guardian moved fast, far too fast for something so large. It raised an arm, and a pulse of energy blasted toward them. Liam shoved Henry forward as the explosion ripped through the chamber, sending dust and debris flying. Liam hit the ground hard, coughing as he scrambled to his feet. Henry was already up, her eyes glowing faintly. She pointed ahead. That way. Liam followed her, dodging falling debris. The Guardian crashed through the ruins behind them, relentless. Henry suddenly stopped and pressed her hand against a nearby wall. Symbols lit up beneath her palm. Liam watched as a hidden door slid open. Henry grabbed his arm. Inside. They dove through just as the door sealed shut behind them. A loud boom shook the walls as the Guardian slammed into the door, but it held. Silence. Liam leaned against the wall, breathing hard. That thing. What was it? Henry swallowed. A Visari Guardian. It was built to protect this place. Liam ran a hand through his hair. Well, it's still doing its job. Henry frowned. It should not have attacked me. I am Visari. Liam met her gaze. Then why did it? Henry hesitated, then spoke softly. Because of you. Liam froze. What? She placed a hand over her chest. Our bond. It has changed me. I am not fully Visari anymore. And you are not fully human. Liam's breath caught in his throat. He had felt it, too, a strange awareness growing between them. But now was not the time to think about it. Liam pushed off the wall. We need to get back to the ship. Henry nodded. This way. Deeper into the ruins. The passage led them into another chamber, a control room. Old Visari technology covered the walls, flickering weakly with power. Henry stepped forward, placing her hands on the nearest console. Liam crossed his arms. Can you shut down that Guardian? Henry's eyes glowed faintly as she accessed the system. No, but I can delay it. She pressed a sequence of symbols. Outside, the Guardian let out a distorted roar, then fell silent. Liam exhaled. Nice work. Henry swayed slightly, exhaustion creeping back into her features. Liam stepped forward. Hey, take it easy. She shook her head. No, there is something else. She moved to another console and activated a holographic map. Liam's eyes narrowed. What is this? Henry's voice was quiet. Coordinates, a location hidden by the Visari before the war. Liam studied the map. What's there? Henry hesitated. Hope. Liam frowned. You're not making sense. She turned to him. If the Kryn catch us, they will never stop. But if we go here, we might have a way to end this chase for good. Liam clenched his jaw. He didn't like the sound of this, but they were running out of options. Before he could respond, a deep rumbling echoed through the ruins. Henry's eyes widened. The Guardian. It's waking up again. Liam cursed. Then we need to go. Now. Henry grabbed a small data crystal from the console and slipped it into her sleeve. Liam pulled her toward the exit. Come on. Back to the Wayfarer. They ran through the dark corridors, moving as fast as they could. The entire ruin was shaking now. Liam knew what was happening. The Guardian was breaking through. Up ahead, a faint light appeared. The exit. Liam pushed forward, dragging Henry with him. They burst into the open air, sprinting toward the Wayfarer. Behind them, a massive explosion tore through the ruins. The Guardian emerged, its armor cracked, its eyes burning brighter. Liam shoved Henry up the ramp and jumped into the cockpit. He powered up the ship in record time. Engines roared. The Guardian lifted an arm, energy building in its core. Liam didn't wait. He pulled the thrusters hard. The Wayfarer shot into the sky, just as the Guardian fired. The blast barely missed them, shaking the entire ship. Liam gritted his teeth. That was too close. Henry collapsed into the co-pilot's seat, clutching the data crystal. We have what we need. Liam glanced at her. Then where are we going next? Henry's violet eyes met his. to find the last secret of the Visari. Liam tightened his grip on the controls. The chase wasn't over. It was just leading them to something bigger. Liam gripped the controls of the Wayfarer, his jaw tight, as the ship cruised through deep space. Their destination was a set of hidden coordinates, a place even the Visari had buried in secrecy. Andri had called it their last hope. He glanced at her. She sat in the co-pilot's seat, holding the data crystal they had recovered from Xiphos 9. Her silver hair shimmered under the dim cockpit lights, her violet eyes locked onto the small device. "You've been quiet," Liam said. Andri didn't look up. "I am thinking." Liam sighed. "About what?" She turned the crystal over in her hands. "This place. The Visari hid it for a reason. But if it can help us, then we have no choice." Liam checked the star map. "We're close. Another hour, maybe." Andri finally met his gaze. "Liam, when we get there, you must promise me something." Liam frowned. "What?" Her voice was soft but firm. "No matter what we find, you must trust me." Liam hesitated, but then gave a small nod. "All right." Andri exhaled and turned back to the stars. Liam didn't know what awaited them, but something told him this was bigger than just escaping the Kryn. This was about ending the chase once and for all. The hidden world. An hour later, the ship dropped out of warp. Before them stretched an unknown planet, hidden from every star map. It was covered in thick storm clouds, with flashes of violet lightning streaking across its surface. Liam narrowed his eyes. "This place looks alive." Andri whispered, "It is." She reached out, pressing a sequence of symbols on the data crystal. Instantly, the storm clouds shifted, revealing a massive structure buried beneath them. A Visari temple, ancient and glowing faintly with power. Liam let out a low whistle. "That's no small hideout." Andri's expression was unreadable. "It is not just a hideout. It is the last memory of my people." Liam exhaled. "All right, let's land." The Visari temple. The Wayfarer touched down near the temple's entrance. Liam stepped onto the ground, his boots sinking slightly into the damp, dark soil. The air was thick with energy, crackling like an unseen force surrounded them. Andri moved ahead, her steps careful but certain. As they approached the entrance, symbols along the walls lit up. A deep, ancient voice filled the air. "Visari blood detected. Welcome, Andri." Liam tensed. "It knows your name." Andri didn't answer. She simply stepped forward. The doors rumbled open, revealing a dark corridor stretching deep into the temple. Liam followed cautiously. "I really don't like this." Andri whispered, "It remembers me." Liam frowned but didn't press further. Something about this place felt awake. The truth of the Visari. The corridor led them into a massive chamber, where a single glowing structure stood in the center. Andri approached it slowly. "This is it." Liam crossed his arms. "What is it?" She placed her hands on the structure. Instantly, the room came alive. Holograms appeared, Visari figures, tall and graceful, speaking in their ancient language. Liam watched as a scene unfolded before him. The Visari were once rulers of a great empire, powerful and wise. But they had made a mistake. They created something they could not control. Andri's voice was barely a whisper. "The Kryn, they were not always our enemies. We created them." Liam stiffened. "What?" The hologram showed a war, a desperate battle. And finally, the Visari's greatest secret, a weapon, one final creation hidden away to stop the Kryn. Liam turned to Andri. "You mean to tell me, your people built the Kryn, lost control, and now we've been running from your own mistake?" Andri's eyes glistened with emotion. "Yes, but we also built something to stop them." She turned back to the structure, pressing another set of symbols. A final hologram appeared, a blueprint of something massive, something hidden deep within this temple. Liam studied it, his breath catching. A ship, he muttered. Henry nodded. Not just any ship. She turned to him. It is the last Visari warship, and it is the only thing that can stop the Kryn. Liam clenched his fists. And you didn't think to tell me this sooner? Henry looked away. I did not know if it would still exist. Liam exhaled. So what now? Henry took a deep breath. Now, we wake it up. She pressed her hands against the console. The entire temple shook, as if something deep beneath the surface was stirring. Liam swallowed. They weren't just running anymore. They were about to fight back. The entire temple rumbled as ancient mechanisms roared to life. Liam grabbed the nearest wall for balance. Beneath them, something massive was awakening. Henry stood at the console, her silver hair glowing under the blue light of the holograms. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. It is still here, she whispered. Liam looked at the massive hologram above them, a blueprint of the Visari warship hidden beneath the temple. It wasn't just a ship. It was a fortress, built for one purpose, to destroy the Kryn. A deep hum filled the air, and the floor beneath them shifted. Then suddenly, a warning alarm blared. Liam's gut tightened. What now? Henry's eyes widened. The Kryn. They are here. The Kryn attack. Outside, the sky darkened as massive Kryn warships descended through the storm clouds. Their sleek, insect-like hulls reflected flashes of violet lightning. Liam and Henry ran to the temple entrance. Liam cursed under his breath. They must have tracked us. Henry's expression was grim. They will not let us leave alive. The Kryn opened fire. Beams of red energy slammed into the temple's defenses, shaking the ground. Liam turned to Henry. We need that warship. Now. Henry nodded and grabbed his hand. Come with me. She led him deeper into the temple, past towering Visari statues and glowing control panels. At the far end of the chamber, a massive platform lay waiting. Henry placed both hands on the control panel beside it. A deep, thunderous roar echoed from the depths. Then, from beneath the temple, the ground split open, and the warship began to rise. The Visari warship. Liam's eyes widened as the massive Visari battleship emerged from the underground chamber. Its dark silver hull gleamed under the stormy sky, covered in glowing blue patterns. Unlike any human or Kryn vessel, it looked almost alive, a fusion of technology and something older. Henry's voice was filled with awe. The Aetherian, the last ship of the Visari. Liam had no time to admire it. The Kryn warships were closing in fast. Can you fly it? He asked. Henry nodded. I was made for this. Liam grinned. Then let's go. They sprinted toward the warship as a bridge extended from its side, leading them into the massive vessel. The battle begins. Inside, the ship came to life the moment Henry stepped onto the command deck. The walls glowed with Visari symbols, and the entire ship seemed to recognize her. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. Visari bloodline confirmed. Welcome, Henry. Liam raised an eyebrow. It talks. Henry moved to the main controls. It remembers. She placed her hands on the console, and the ship's systems roared to life. Outside, Kryn warships swarmed toward them, red energy beams lighting up the sky. Liam strapped into a seat beside Henry. All right, let's see what this thing can do. Henry's eyes glowed brighter as she activated the ship's engines. The Aetherian lifted off the ground. Then, it shot forward like lightning. The Visari's last weapon. The Kryn warships opened fire, but the Aetherian moved like no other ship Liam had ever seen. It dodged, weaved, and twisted through enemy fire, almost as if it knew what was coming. Liam grabbed the weapon's controls. I'm gonna return the favor. A targeting screen appeared before him, tracking multiple Kryn ships. He pressed the trigger. Blue Visari energy cannons fired, and in an instant, 3 Kryn warships exploded. Liam let out a breath. Oh, I like this ship. Henry didn't respond. Her entire focus was on something ahead, the Kryn flagship. It was 10 times larger than the others, its black hull covered in shifting red symbols. Liam clenched his jaw. That's their leader, isn't it? Henry nodded. Yes. Liam exhaled. Then we take it down. The final strike. The Kryn flagship charged a massive energy cannon, red light building in its core. Liam's stomach dropped. That thing is gonna wipe us out. Henry didn't move. Instead, she placed both hands on the controls and whispered, "No. We end this now." The Aetherian suddenly shifted, its glowing blue symbols turning white. Liam felt a pulse of energy surge through the ship. Henry's voice was calm. This ship was made to defeat the Kryn. Liam swallowed. And how does it do that? Henry closed her eyes. The Aetherian's hull expanded, and in a single instant, it released a pulse of pure Visari energy. A massive shockwave tore through space, engulfing the Kryn ships. The Kryn flagship shuddered, its energy cannon failed, its hull began to break apart. And then, it exploded. Liam shielded his eyes from the bright flash. When he looked again, the sky was clear. The Kryn were gone. A new beginning. The Aetherian hovered silently in space. Liam let out a shaky laugh. We did it. Henry turned to him, her violet eyes soft. Yes. For the first time, in a long time, they weren't running anymore. Liam leaned back in his seat. So, what now? Henry smiled, looking out into the stars. Now, we rebuild. Liam grinned. Sounds like a plan. And with that, the Aetherian soared into the unknown, toward a future neither of them had ever imagined. The chase was over. The war was won. But their story was just beginning. End of Part 9.